In today's video, we are looking at brilliant watches that have been featured in Hollywood classic movies. Before we start this video, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. And also, this is part 2. Due to popular demand, we're doing another one. So if you want to see more movie watches, then head to that video. Let's begin with John Wick. Now, John Wick is all about an underground organization that's going on around us all the time that nobody can see. Keanu Reeves plays John Wick, and he's essentially the sexiest, I wouldn't suppose you'd call him a secret agent, but a kind of superhuman killer that you've ever seen. He says remarkably little. I think one of the key things that he says is,
"People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back."
But he does wear a pretty incredible watch. This is the Carl F. Bucherer Monero Auto Date. It comes in at 38mm in diameter, 8.75mm in height, and it comes in full stainless steel, but there also is a gold variant that you can choose between. It has a fully automatic movement with 42 hours of power, and because Rolex bought Bucherer and then discontinued them after, I doubt that you'd really be able to get one of these watches new now, which is really a shame. It's always very sad to see a watch brand die. Now, interestingly enough, if you have a keen eye, you'll notice in the movie that John Wick actually wears the watch the wrong way around. So instead of it wearing like this, he puts it like this. And that's because he's in so many physical fights that he doesn't want to damage the top of the watch. He'll go like this to check the time. Now new, these watches come in at £2,500. But please remember that Rolex did buy Carl F. Bucherer and then since have discontinued the watch brand. So pre-owned, you might be paying a lot more than that now. As soon as something is discontinued or there's no more production of it, typically the prices tend to go up. But let me know what you guys think in that one because it's an interesting topic. Next up, we have we have James Bond, but this James Bond isn't my James Bond. This is James Bond GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan. And the watch he wore in GoldenEye is this. It's a Seamaster, but it's a quartz Seamaster. This comes in at 41mm in diameter, comes in full stainless steel, has a beautiful blue dial. And what's interesting about the blue dial is the bezel is that kind of aluminium disc insert. Now, a friend of mine called Matthew, I went to Iceland with him a while ago, actually has this watch. And over time, because it's aluminium, the bezel goes that kind of dusty, kind of whitey, kind of texture. It's really quite stunning. And I was so infatuated by his watch in Iceland. Now on the pre-owned market, for one that's in good working order, that has box and papers, etc., it might go for around about £2,500. Also, another interesting fact is that GoldenEye was released in 1995, and this was the year that Omega began their sponsorship or collaboration with the James Bond franchise. So this is the first ever official product placement Omega in a James Bond movie. The American with George Clooney, that is what is next. Now, in The American, George Clooney portrays a practically mute assassin in a fairly under-the-radar film. Well, it was under the radar back then, but then it kind of like gradually climbed through the ranks of fame. Now, those of you with a keen eye would have spotted that George Clooney is wearing a pretty sexy Omega watch. This is the Omega Speedmaster. Now, this Speedmaster is actually the older generation of Speedmaster. It's the Omega Caliber 1861, and he wears it on a black rubber strap. The Caliber 1861 Speedmaster is something of a relic. It's a modern relic. It was released in 1996, and it had an impressive production of 26 years. And that's when you know that something is a pretty incredible product. If people are still buying it after 26 years, it means that the technology is not technically gone like out of fashion, I suppose you would say, or it's still very relevant. Now, the movement isn't COSC or METAS certified like the Speedmasters you get today, but what it is flight certified, as in, space certified, as in it, can go to the moon, which is just kind of insane to say. Now, roughly, I'm going to say you can pick one of these watches up around about £4,000, maybe a little bit below that on the pre-owned market now, because remember, they're no longer in production. And honestly, it's kind of weird to say this, I can't imagine George Clooney wearing any other watch than a really sexy Speedmaster. He's just too classy a guy. The next watch on the list is Brad Pitt's, well, technically not Brad Pitt's watch, but it's Sonny Hayes' watch in the movie F1. The movie F1 is all about Brad Pitt looking sexy. It's all about Brad Pitt looking sexy and Brad Pitt looking sexy. But while he's looking sexy, he brings his expertise to the racetrack and essentially kind of reignites the flame of a dying F1 team. It's actually a really quite phenomenally shot movie. In terms of my videographer brain, when I watched that, I was like, Jesus, the shots that they got are really insane. And when you're watching this movie, the watch is literally everywhere. This is the IWC Engineer Automatic 40mm. It comes in at 10.7mm in height. It has a 10 bar water resistance, and it also has the caliber 32111 automatic movement with 120 hours of power. But what's incredible about this watch isn't necessarily just the bells and whistles that are attached to it, it's the color that they've used. It has a beautiful new green olive dial with gold hands and kind of flares from the vintage jumbo that it's inspired from, which is just insane. Now, this isn't actually the watch that's worn in the movie, it's taken inspiration from the watch that is in the movie because that's the jumbo. So yeah, although this watch isn't directly the watch from the movie, it still is known widely as the F1 watch. So if you want to see the actual watch, you can look up the jumbo, the green jumbo that he wears, and you can see it. It's pretty awesome. Also, on the subject of that Sunny Haze IWC F1, it's actually trading way above retail at the moment. I think it's trading for about £14,000, which is insane. And now we get to Alien, that classic movie that used to terrify me as a kid. Specifically the bit where and it like pops out, and we probably can't show it because we'll get demonetized, but that was one of the bits that really got me. Now in this movie, if you look at Ripley's wrist and also Tom Skerritt, the captain essentially in this movie, you'll notice that they're wearing two connected Casio F-100 models. Now these have a red border and what seems to be a rubber strap. Now, Alien's all about the future. It's meant to be set in the future. It's meant to look very futuristic. So as a result, they made really bold choices with their props, with their costumes, and with their watches. And Casio is one of the most forward-thinking futuristic brands that you could literally buy. I mean, literally, Casio, one of their first inventions, this is insane. They invented a ring to put a cigarette in so that you could smoke the cigarette down to the nub and it wouldn't burn your finger. That's one of the first inventions. Then they invented stuff to do with the calculator. They've had so many. Actually, I'll put some of them on the screen just so you can see them. But yeah, it's pretty insane. Next up, we have another spy movie, or technically he's not a spy. I suppose he's not really a spy, but it's Jason Bourne. Now, in Jason Bourne, Matt Damon portrays, you guessed it, Jason Bourne, and essentially he's suffering with amnesia. Is that what you would call it? Like that he can't really remember his life. He can't remember his identity. He can't remember his background, but he does have an exceptional talent for essentially killing people. Now, within the Bourne movie, Matt Damon actually wears this. This is the Tag Heuer Link chronograph, which was released in 2001. Now, surprisingly enough, this is actually a quartz chronograph, and it just shows you how far Tag Heuer have come since 2001 when this movie was released. This watch comes in at 42mm in diameter, comes in full stainless steel, comes in at 15mm in thickness. At the moment, you can pick this watch up for around about the £1,000 mark, probably below that, just because it's quartz and all the rest of it. And Keanu Reeves is back. This time he's younger and sexier than ever. This is the movie Point Break. So the Point Break movie is basically about a string of bizarre bank robberies in Southern California. And it's basically about Keanu Reeves infiltrating the suspected gang. Now, in this film, the main character actually wears a Breitling Navitimer quartz, commonly known as the Pluton.
Little hand says it's time to rock and roll.
This Breitling is actually a super cool watch, and it was really futuristic. I think it was way ahead of its time, if I'm totally honest. You can see that it has a black dial. It's kind of highly complicated, has numerals everywhere, but it also has a digital element at the bottom at the 6 o'clock mark. Now, on the pre-owned market, because this is discontinued, you can probably pick one up for about £800. Sylvester Stallone is the next actor we're looking at, and I literally can't think of Sylvester Stallone without just going, Adrian! But essentially, Sylvester Stallone in the movie Daylight, this was when he really ignited the spark for Panerai watches. Now, Sylvester Stallone was a really big guy. He was hench. He was huge in Rocky. He was huge in this movie as well. And it took a guy like him to really hit home how cool Panerai watches were. In this movie that was released in 1996, he wears the Panerai Luminor 5218-201/A. It's actually quite interesting because Panerai before this were a relatively unknown brand. They were kind of struggling. They made huge, chunky Italian watches in a market that was dominated by the thin, nimble Swiss. But That made them cool, and all they needed is the spotlight, and that's what Stallone gave them. This watch, after this movie in 2020, was sold from Sylvester Stallone's personal watch collection, and you'll never guess what it sold for. It sold for $214,000. On the subject of Sylvester Stallone, we should probably talk about...
I'll be back.
Apart from it's not Terminator, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. In the famous movie Predator, Arnold wears a banging watch because it's affordable, and I love the brand. I'm literally wearing one today. It is the Seiko Arnie. Technically, it's actually not called we nicknamed it the Arnie. It's actually the Seiko H558, and this is likely the -5009 version. Believe it or not, this watch actually had such a cult following. It went through from the 80s all the way until literally right now. And because of that, in 2019, Seiko actually released a brand new watch, now known as the SNJ 025. And this essentially was the modern interpretation of that watch. I just love the prospect of Arnold wearing something big, bold, and powerful like a Seiko. It's unbreakable, and it kind of suits the aesthetic of him, to be honest, and also this movie. In the next movie, we have Tom Cruise. And by the way, Tom Cruise has aged phenomenally well. It's kind of bizarre. He doesn't look he's like a vampire. He just doesn't get older. So in the first Top Gun movie, a lot of people assumed that IWC were involved, but actually they weren't. Within the first movie, he wears this. This is the Porsche design, and it's specifically the Porsche design 7176S. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, 15 millimeters in thickness, so it is pretty damn thick, and it has the Lamina movement 5100. It's water resistant to 100 meters, has a screw down crown, and the whole case and bracelet is blackened. I actually really like the design of this watch. I really, really do. I love the flash of red that runs through this watch. I love how it combats or contrasts with the black on the dial and black of the bracelet and the head of this watch. And I like it that he kind of went off-piste here. Tom Cruise could have easily got any watch he wanted, but he seems like a genuine watch guy because he's getting things that are off the beaten path. Now, if you were to buy one of these in the pre-owned market, because of the fame that goes beside Top Gun, you could be paying around about £3,000 to £4,000. Now we come to Venom. Venom's an interesting one. Venom kind of caught me by surprise. I was not a fan of the last couple of movies. I think there's been 3. But the first movie I thought was quite fun. It's quite good. I don't know, I'm getting to the stage where I'm old enough to prefer the Venom that was in Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I'm that kind of age. So this movie didn't really appeal to me as such. But Tom Hardy's great in it, and the watch is pretty cool. This is the Bremont U-2/51-Jet. It comes in at 43 millimeters in diameter. It has a pretty distinctive 2-crown system at the right-hand side, one for the internal rotating bezel and the other for the winding of the movement. I do love the color palette on this. The blue hands combating with the splashes of red, combating with the black. It's actually all quite nice. The movement in this model is the modified caliber 11.5, and this is the BE-36 AE. This is a fully automatic watch with 38 hours of power. Now you can buy this watch new still, so it's still on Bremont's website, and it comes in at £4,600. The Grey Man is next on the list with Ryan Gosling, and he's a good looking guy, isn't he? But The Grey Man is basically about a CIA operative, and he basically uncovers pretty damning secrets against the agency, and because he uncovered those secrets, he then becomes, it's actually a really cool movie, he then becomes the target. So it's about him running away from essentially the people that are trying to kill him. So it's a really good movie. But in this movie, and this is potentially because Ryan Gosling is sponsored by Tag Heuer, actually it probably is, he wears a pretty cool Carrera. This is the Tag Heuer Carrera, possibly the day date. It's quite difficult to see, but I do think it is a silver dialed day date. This watch comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 millimeters in thickness, has a fully automatic caliber 5 movement with 38 hours of power. It has a silver dial, but there are other dial variants that you can choose between, and it comes in at £3,050. If you guys want to see more of these movie watches, then please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please hit that subscribe button or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HP Lifelens, or the podcast, the Into the Mind podcast. And I'll see you guys real soon.